What's up, guys? So news recently broke that the Premier League is about to institute a salary cap across the league for all the teams. Now, this is massive news and it could change the sports world forever. So I'm going to break it all down for you guys today, but let me give you guys some background to kick things off. Now, it's no secret that American investors have increasingly crossed the Atlantic to acquire equity stakes in the Premier League's top clubs. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Manchester United, West Ham, Fulham, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and Burnley all now have American ownership. Some majority, others minority. I mean, it makes sense. American sports teams now routinely trade at multi-billion-dollar valuations. Soccer, as we call it here in America, is the world's most popular sport by far. And while executives from the Premier League's top clubs publicly fawn over the commercialization of sports in America, an equal number of American investors privately criticize the Premier League's inability to monetize its audience. For instance, Commissioner Roger Goodell has done his best to make the game global, but the league currently brings in more than $20 billion in annual revenue, almost exclusively from North America. Yet still, that's more annual revenue than the world's top 5 soccer leagues. We're talking about the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and League One combined, despite the latter, soccer, having a much more larger and global audience. However, if it was as simple as buying a club, turning on the American playbook, and profiting billions, everyone would do it. Instead, many of these successful investors underestimated the Premier League's unique challenges, including ever-escalating salaries due to oil-rich competitors and annual expenses that routinely surpass 70% of a club's total income. That's without even mentioning promotion and relegation, which can eviscerate a club's balance sheet and set them back many years financially. This is precisely why many of these owners have spent years campaigning for changes across the Premier League. Remember, the Premier League runs on a shareholder model, with potential rule changes requiring the support of at least a 2/3 vote, or 14 out of 20 clubs, to get anything passed. And while I suspect none of them would say it publicly, it's sort of an open secret that many of the most forward-thinking Premier League owners have quietly been hoping that American ownership reaches 14 teams at some point in the future. Now, the Super League, which would have boosted valuations by implementing a closed league structure similar to the NFL or NBA, is the most obvious example of potential greed in the past. But a salary cap structure was always going to be the first step in what we'll call the Americanization of the Premier League. And now it has arrived. According to multiple reports this week, a majority of owners from the English Premier League have officially given league executives the green light to finalize a proposal that would place a hard spending limit on annual wages and transfer fees across the league. There are still many unknowns, with the final vote not expected to occur until next month. However, the salary cap is expected to be calculated based on a 5 times multiple of annual TV revenue earned by the Premier League's poorest club. Let me give you an example. Southampton, which finished 20th in the Premier League last season, earned $131 million in TV revenue. That would have resulted in a $653 million salary cap this season. All I did there was multiply $131 million by 5, with the core idea being that the salary cap will increase over time as TV contracts continue to get more lucrative. The interesting part about this, though, is that it won't really change much in the short term, as Chelsea was the only club last year to exceed the $653 million threshold. Now, I don't consider myself a salary cap hater. In fact, I believe it was one of the core reasons why we have so much parity across American sports today. Sure, guys like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, LeBron James, and Stephen Curry have proven that talent will always reign supreme. However, the salary cap objectively makes it so small market teams like the Green Bay Packers and Cincinnati Bengals can make it to the Super Bowl too. The Premier League's salary cap argument also makes a ton of sense. If you think about the top EPL clubs today, they're currently spending 10 times more in salaries than the bottom clubs. There's a reason why Leicester City was the only club outside the EPL's Big Six to win a championship over the last 25 years. The current model, spending 70 to 90% of income on wages, isn't sustainable either. And we can all agree that the recent trend of oil-rich countries buying up clubs like Manchester City and Newcastle United appears unsustainable too. However, it's also incorrect to say that a salary cap system doesn't include some negative consequences. For starters, a salary cap, in its simplest form, places a limit on player earnings. Now, many of these guys make a ton of money, and I don't expect fans to feel sorry for them. But the fact that the Premier League competes for talent against Europe's other top leagues, unlike in the United States where the NFL, NBA, etc., are only competing against themselves, a salary cap could eventually dilute the talent pool. Think about it this way. If Manchester City can't pay Erling Haaland or Kevin De Bruyne what they want, they'll just go to Real Madrid or PSG, who seemingly have unlimited money to spend and don't have to abide by the same salary cap limitations. The potential punishment mechanisms don't make much sense either. For example, the EPL will probably deduct points from clubs that breach the annual salary cap threshold, similar to the system used today for clubs that violate profit and sustainability rules. But there's really 2 problems with that. Number 1, this system is not uniformly applied. And number two, the EPL would be much better off with a luxury tax system, allowing bigger clubs to spend more money if they choose and then redistributing that money to smaller market teams. Otherwise, a salary cap system could actually make the parity worse, as it would effectively lock in financial advantages for the world's biggest clubs. The Professional Footballers Association has also said they would challenge any hard cap on player wages, claiming that it violates European competition law. And that's without even considering the obvious consequences of everyday fans having to become professional bookkeepers, debating online whether they can even sign specific players based on how it will impact the club's salary cap years down the road. Most importantly, EPL fans should be concerned about what this means for the future. Professional sports are a big business, specifically in America, but the Premier League has historically been so great because it has never really felt like a big business, despite the exorbitant salaries. Many of the stadiums are more than 100 years old. Season tickets often cost less than entry into a single NBA playoff game, and fan bases are ingrained within communities more than any other sport. It sort of feels like that's changing though. The introduction of a salary cap may not seem like a big deal. They will say it's to increase parity, but the truth is, this is one step towards the increased commercialization of a sport. I've seen it before, and we all know what it looks like. Billionaire owners will make more money, ticket prices will get more expensive over time, and fans will be left wondering what happened. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. I make weekly videos breaking down the business and money behind sports.